This interview is for information only and should not be considered as investment advice or a recommendation to buy shares in the company featured. Welcome to this Stock Box interview.
Well, today I'm joined by Jason Brewer, Executive Director at Imara Gold, formerly Caracal Gold, following a flood of updates from the business over the last week or so. Jason, how are you doing? Sounds like you've been keeping yourself busy.
Yeah, busy is kind of my second name these days. But it's been a lot of activity with Imara, the need for a lot of activity with Imara, to be honest. But we're pushing ahead with the broader strategy, with everything to do with the company and its activities here in East Africa and elsewhere now in Africa too.
Yeah, so a good place to start seems to be with the exclusivity agreement you signed last week over a package of gold copper licenses in Zambia. Can you tell us about these? What's the opportunity here?
Sure. Look, I think it's important for Imara and its shareholders to see value in a broader strategy. The company's goal, even from the 4 or 5 years ago when it got started, was to build a presence here in East Africa, and primarily starting here in Kenya and then expanding into Tanzania and beyond that. I think we're in a very great, one of the best gold markets we've ever seen. And as a group that's based here in Africa on the ground and seeing projects, it's important for us to expand into proven mining environments. And Zambia is just one of those. Zambia offers us tremendous opportunity. We're working with a Dubai-based group, Vaults, there, who have secured rights over a series of licenses in Zambia, 2 large-scale exploration licenses and 2 small-scale exploration licenses. And by doing this deal, it gives us that option to secure exclusivity, a period of time to do the due diligence on those assets. Not expensive, significant cash, so we're actually protecting the company's balance sheet, a balance sheet that we're actually doing a lot of restructuring and recapitalization of. But Zambia has great potential. People know it obviously for its copper, but there's significant historical gold production, and a lot of gold endowment there, which we think we're able to secure options over and look to build another leg to Imara's kind of gold business in that region.
Great. So underexplored opportunity, really. I guess the question is, what are the next steps? I understand due diligence is underway at the moment.
Yeah, look, I'm actually due to be there, if it's not this weekend, in the beginning of next week. So, getting on the ground, meeting some of the key people, the local stakeholders, the local community. I mean, critical for all the businesses that I'm involved in is to make sure that we have very strong relationships with the community. They're our partners. They're the ones that would immediately benefit from our activities there. So getting over there, meeting the people, walking the ground, meeting technical teams and so on, and basically pushing ahead with that due diligence, both legal, financial, and technical, to demonstrate that this has the potential to add significantly to what Imara is trying to do. Like I say, we're doing this, we've got to, we're able to secure such a significant option over a ground holding that I think provides so much opportunity for us. And that's what we're trying to show shareholders and all our stakeholders, is that, yes, we've got a core asset here in Kenya, but at the same time, we've got to build on that and bring other kind of legs to the stool. Over the past 2 years, whilst the company's been suspended, its activities have been curtailed because of the issues that the company's faced here in Kenya. By having this broader base, more legs to the stool, it's more balanced, it's more diversified, the risk is shared, and it gives, I guess, a greater opportunity for the company to push ahead on its gold strategy, where I think we've got a huge advantage by being on the ground and seeing these assets, light years before most people will see them back in the UK or in Canada or in Australia.
Definitely, yeah. And talking of putting more legs on the stool, you also announced 2 MOUs for gold exploration in Botswana as well. One with GeoWise for identifying and exploration and mine development projects, and another with CoreStore for some licenses specifically. So that all sounds like it's moving quite quickly. Is that more of the same sort of strategic approach that you were just talking about in Zambia then?
Absolutely. Look, Botswana is rated as, I think, Africa's prime location for investment. The country is very stable. It's got great policies in place in terms of attracting mining investment. A very stable country, obviously dominated by diamonds. There's a big nickel industry there, big copper industry there. So it's a proven mining jurisdiction as well, and one where I think we can work very effectively. We've been able to secure over 7,000 kilometers of exploration licenses between these two groups that are very experienced exploration groups that have got a series of geoscientists, geologists working for them, and where we can leverage off their experience and their position in country. Again, it provides us the opportunity to work with good people that know how to operate in the country. And that's what I think it's about for us. It's those partnerships that we're trying to do. It gives us so much upside, I think. I was involved in an Australian listed company several years ago that had a series of gold licenses in the Kripan. And so when I had a chance to go back and look at this and the opportunity came up, I seized it. Botswana is one which, again, I think it gives stability. No disrespect to some of the East, to Kenya. But Botswana is decades ahead in terms of where it's at with its mining industry. Since independence, that country has been so dependent on its mining industry, and that mining industry has contributed greatly to the development of that country. And I think that's a lesson for so many countries in Africa when they see how well that mining industry has been run and what it contributes to all of its people. So, to get involved in Botswana, to have that opportunity to work with two groups like this and bring another kind of two legs to the stool here for Imara gives us, like I say, greater opportunity, greater upside. But again, no major cash commitments. So we're preserving our cash because clearly we want cash to go into immediate gold production once we work through the processes here in Kenya. We want to build a gold business in Tanzania. We want to build this business here in Botswana and Zambia, but we need to do it in the right way. So whilst we're doing the process with our prospectus, with our balance sheet recapitalization, restructuring, the type of structured deal we've done now, I think is a smart one, and one which gives shareholders, optionality when they look at us. We're just not a one-trick pony here in Kenya. We've got a number of opportunities which they can look at and go, oh, they're in Botswana. Look how good the Botswanan mining sector is doing. Look at Zambia. Zambia, I think, has just recorded its highest copper production in a number of years. Massive investment out of there from the Middle East just recently in its copper sector. So the kind of countries that we're expanding into are low risk and ones where there is such a proven and well-established mining industry and mining service industry that allows us to move very quickly as well.
Great. It's really good to hear about all these new opportunities. I guess it'd be good to hear about Kilimapesa. Can you update us on how the mine restart efforts are going there?
Look, we, with the stakeholders here in Kenya, we received notification from the ministry that they wanted to set up a committee with all stakeholders there to ensure that restart addresses all the issues of the past, all the legacy issues that we inherited when this new management team and new board of directors came in. So that process has commenced. We've got to work with all stakeholders, with the ministry, to ensure that as we push ahead, we're in a position to basically deliver on all the obligations which were made years ago and the obligations that we want to make. And there's obviously going to be some new obligations put on us in terms of ESG initiatives, in terms of our role in the community there. And that's something obviously, is very close to my heart. But there were not as many, in my personal opinion, as many community-based initiatives as there should have been for an operation that's had a gold license for decades. This is an asset which should have been doing more in the community beyond just employment. Okay, so I think that's something which, moving forward, that's a common theme throughout all mine development throughout Africa, throughout the world. So we have to go through that process. We're very fortunate that we have 3 Kenyan-based directors that are able to communicate effectively with all levels of government and community. So I'm very impressed that we were able to attract Noreen, Hannah, and Edward to the board as directors, as chair in Noreen's case, in terms of what they bring. So, with that process here in Kenya, it's one we have to go through. We can't circumvent it. We've got to go through a process, and we've got to go through that in accordance with the ministry's set processes, and that's what we'll do. In the meantime, we focus on the corporate and what we've got to do there to be in a position to have the necessary capital to fund the major restart of that mine and other mines that we are looking at obviously acquiring over the course of the coming months too.
Yes, I was going to ask you about the corporate side. When we spoke before, you're right in the middle of addressing a number of historical issues and strengthening the balance sheet to prepare for the future. Based on the news you're putting out, I'm guessing everything's on track there.
Look, it's a process. I mean, I've been on board several months. Directors at the other board of directors, a little bit less than that. We're not trading. We are working on that prospectus. There are a number of issues that the FCA have obviously flagged, and we've made that clear in a number of releases in the past. You've seen the company completely overhaul its policies, procedures, board charters, committee charters, terms of references. They've all been redone to ensure that from a corporate governance perspective, we are operating at the highest of levels that we feel are appropriate for us. We're currently going through a 6-monthly review of that, and those policies will be updated again. So it's a continual process there. There's other kind of governance matters in terms of financial management. There was issues previously with the financial management. We've completely changed that process. We've been very fortunate to have a very, very strong financial manager appointed here in Kenya, and Esther has done an incredible job. Rob Scott, one of our financial consultants, likewise, the work that he's done is second to none. We work very closely with Bowsprit in London, and one of our non-executive directors in London, Simon Grant-Rennick, has been very instrumental in managing our corporate governance and our financial management procedures over there. We've had to address previous matters of non-disclosure by former directors. We've addressed that. There's so many things we've had to address to demonstrate to the FCA that we are suitable to maintain our listing. And that's an ongoing process. In parallel to that, because of the financial issues that this company faced 2 years ago, the past 24 months, we've had to work with all our creditors to restructure debt, to which hopefully at some point when we do relist, we're reaching terms there on a conversion of all or part of that debt to equity. We've attracted funding out of some of our major funders out of Germany. The company that I'm involved with here, Gathoni Mishai Investments, has put funding in and will continue to put funding in and support what we're doing. GMI, as you know, is a major funder of a number of junior companies. We've put significant money into Maruda. We've put money, we put over $750,000 into Shuka, just in debt. And that's on top of almost, 700,000, a similar number in equity. We're making another 1.35 million, I think, payment next week. Later this week, should clear next week. So we will continue to support companies where we feel there is value, and there is significant value here in Imara. So restructuring that balance sheet, working with all creditors, working with all stakeholders, it's not something that you do instantly, Dan. We're in a tanker here and we're trying to turn it around. We're trying to turn it on a sixpence. And there's a lot of work to be doing there. You've seen the board and our financial team, put out accounts which were years overdue. That takes time. We've had to work through that. We've had to work through the auditors here. Previously, the auditors weren't able to get access to sufficient financial records. We've addressed that. We're a very open, we're a very transparent business, and we appreciate, we love that sort of engagement. So there is a lot of work going on the corporate side, a lot of engagement with the FCA. We've got to demonstrate, like I say, that the company, the way it is set up, the way it is run, the procedures, the policies, the overall corporate governance of this is one that deserves to maintain that listing. And remember, we've been suspended for 2 years now. And that's a long time. So you've got a lot of frustrated, a lot of tired shareholders, many of whom would probably have written off their investments, during which time gold price has gone up significantly. So there is a lot of value which we have to now get back for shareholders. And rest assured, we are aiming to achieve that. Hence the additional projects we're bringing in, hence the focus on doing things right here in Kenya, hence the focus on doing things right from a corporate point of view. So there's a lot going on. I would encourage shareholders to contact the company, for these updates. Read the RNSs which go out. There's, as you know, with any junior company in London, there's a lot of discussion, there's a lot of debate. If there's no announcements put out every second day, then everybody's coming up with a reason as to what's going on or why something's not there. Guys, this is mining. This is mining. We're working here in Africa. There is a lot of moving parts, a tremendous lot of moving parts. We're very fortunate at Imara, I almost called it Caracal then. We're very fortunate here at Imara. We've got a very strong board. We've got a very good board that's focused, that brings complementary skills, and I think shareholders will appreciate the efforts they're putting in to turn this ship around and get value back from them.
Absolutely. Well, the key takeaway for me, with all these moving parts ongoing, it seems like 2026 is going to be a pretty busy year for the company and for news flow. Yeah,
look, we've still got 6-7 weeks left of 2025, so hopefully we can get a fair bit of news out before the end. But no, if things go to plan as we get into 2026, our position here in East Africa, in Southern Africa with the other assets, I think there's a lot to be very hopeful about. You've seen, I'm focused on getting value back into this company. I'm focused on making it work. I'm not focused on doing a deal for the sake of doing a deal. And there's been deals put to us in months gone past, deals for people coming in to get involved in Kilimapesa. Okay, those deals don't work. The way those deals were structured don't work. They were opportunistic. Okay, very opportunistic, and they did not give the value which we felt was appropriate for our shareholders. So we're not going to jump in and do the first deal that's on the table. Far from it. We work effectively to do things in the right way, and that is our focus. So as we go into 2026, yes, there's going to be a lot of news, Dan, a tremendous amount of news. There's going to be news on our existing projects. There's probably going to be news on additional projects which we look at, because clearly we continue to look in places like Tanzania, where there is an opportunity to get involved in other brownfield mine developments, and ones which have the potential to deliver gold in the short term. That is our focus. It's about getting value back to shareholders as quickly as we can. Because let's be honest, 2 years suspended is 2 years too long. So we've got to address that, and we've got to do it quickly, and we've got to get things moving.
Absolutely. Well, Jason, thank you again for your time, and I look forward to catching up with you again soon.
Absolutely, Mark. Dan, thank you very much. We'll talk soon.
If you enjoyed this interview, then give us a thumbs up, a like or a retweet. Subscribe to us on YouTube or follow us on Twitter, and hit that notification bell to be the first to know when we release new content. There's loads of great content on our website too, across all our programs at stockboxmedia.com. Thank you for watching.